The very centre of Christian faith and liturgy is the whole notion of resurrection, the Easter story. Christ is risen again, Alleluia. But we often think of resurrection in a very narrow sense. And with me is Dr. Sarah Parks. Sarah, let's talk a little bit about resurrection.
Okay. In this day and age, we do often associate resurrection instantly with Christianity. It's at the heart of Christian belief. There's a spectrum of Christian belief around it, ranging from it's a metaphor, it's an important metaphor for us, all the way to it literally happened to Jesus and now he's literally in heaven, he's going to come back. All of that range of belief. But I want to push the notion of resurrection back earlier, before the Jesus movement, before Christianity, into the Second Temple period of Judaism, where it was already a hot topic. And we often forget that.
And of course, if we forget it, we should remember that Paul likes to think of himself as someone who has always believed in resurrection.
Yes, we do see hints of it right in the New Testament, that it was already a hot topic. Speaking of Paul, there's a tale in the book of Acts where Paul is hauled into Jewish court and he knows he's in hot water, and so all he has to do to get himself out of it is to say, hey, I'm being pulled in here because of my views on resurrection. And then boom, the two kind of classic different Jewish views on resurrection, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they start fighting with each other about it because it was already a point of tension.
Tell us about the Pharisee and Sadducee views of resurrection.
Well, I mean, Sadducees want to have nothing to do with it, but Pharisees, it's a part and parcel of their kind of view of what would happen. However, it's not a Christian view of resurrection, which is quite individual, which is, I die and then I will go to heaven. The Second Temple Jewish view that we see coming through Pharisees, the resurrection is a time. It's a time. The resurrection is a day when, an eschatological day, when time as we know it will end, and then it'll be the new time of hope, New Jerusalem and all of this stuff. But it's not individual, it's collective.
Well, it's very interesting because, of course, it's only in recent centuries that resurrection has become highly individualized in Christianity, because originally Christianity's vision of resurrection is that Christ is the first of the new time, and Christ is the harbinger of the new time. And for Paul, he's looking forward to a time when the whole people will be the new risen people. Mm-hmm. And so it's very interesting how there seems to be a phenomenon, there is a phenomenon in Christianity that whatever I believe now is always what was believed. Mm-hmm. And of course, one of the interesting things about studying the history of belief is that we realize that often what Christians today say, this is what we believe and have always believed, is actually a very recent belief. Resurrection, curiously, is an image that makes perfect sense, for instance, in the whole Jewish world, where Jews, and what makes them is they always bury their dead. And so they're looking forward to the time when all the graves will be empty. And it's interesting that for the early Christians, they're interested in the empty tomb of Jesus, because that's the beginning of all the tombs.
Exactly, yes. I mean, if we look through Second Temple Jewish texts about resurrection, they are really varied, and there's a taxonomy of resurrection texts published by James Charlesworth, where he's just taken them all and put them into categories for us to see. And we can see some were imagining a body, your body is resurrected. Some were imagining it was ethereal, like you would become a star, for example. We're all going to become a star. Others we become sort of spirit, or we're resurrected with a spiritual body. All of that different stuff is all out there before Christianity. But this business of the empty tomb of Jesus was an expectation that comes through a stream of early Judaism known as like apocalyptic thinking, apocalypticism. And so if there was one person's empty tomb, i.e. Jesus, that meant the time had begun. So any minute now, everyone would rise, and it would be the end. But of course, and we see in the New Testament a little bit of anxiety when this doesn't happen. I think that the first Jesus followers, when they heard tales of an empty tomb, said, this is it. It's the end of the world and the beginning of a new world full of justice, and everything will be peace. And I think Paul bought into this. And then we see near the later New Testament texts, people are in anguish, like, some people have died now. What will happen to them? Like, when is it going to happen? And that Christianity really has to change in the 2nd century to adapt to the fact that the resurrection, as in the end of time, has not happened. And so now what are they going to do?
And now they've got to put it out to the omega, to the very end.
Yeah.
Sarah, thanks for exploring the problematic of this very central belief.